All right, let's dive in. We're tackling State of Decay 3 today.
Oh yeah, time to unpack those rumors.
Exactly, and to try to figure out, what to expect. We've got some great sources this time around. Sunny Games, ANML Zero, 3D Game Man, and Top Top.
Cool. Sounds like we've got a good mix of perspectives there.
Yeah, they're all kind of speculating about, what the next installment's going to bring.
Nice. A little pre-apocalypse prep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's just get right into it. And Sunny Games had some really interesting stuff about like the zombies themselves this time around.
Oh, okay. What do they have to say?
So forget the classic slow shuffling hordes, right? We're talking some really some freaky evolutions here.
Oh wow.
Like they're calling them like lava spewing screamers.
Oh, yikes.
And juggernauts that'll make the previous ones look like total wimps.
Okay, so that sounds like it's going to change up the gameplay a bit, right? Like going from crowd control to something a little more strategic.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't just, run in and hope for the best.
Right.
You got to actually plan your attacks, especially with something like a lava spewing screamer, molten tantrum.
That's what I was thinking. Like,
I want to avoid that.
yeah, definitely prioritize, stealth, traps, maybe even, try and use the environment to your advantage,
Yeah, play smart, right? Like, we've seen hints of environmental kills in the trailers, dismemberment.
Oh, right.
So it looks like they're really leaning into a more visceral, tactical combat system.
Yeah, more realistic, maybe.
Exactly. And that makes sense, especially if the world is as resource scarce as Sunny Games suggests.
Oh, right. He was really excited about that. All that stuff about like crafting and modifications, like
Oh, yeah.
armored clothing, heavily customized vehicles.
So basically Mad Max meets The Walking Dead, right?
Right.
And it's like, it's cool to think about having a fortified truck, but that also makes you a target, right? Like, other survivors are going to be looking at you like you're a walking treasure chest.
That's a really good point, yeah.
So then it's like a whole new level of strategy, right? Do you go full fortress mode or do you try to stay under the radar?
Yeah, that's interesting. It adds like a whole new social element to it too. Do you, trust other players enough to team up, share resources, or do you just say, forget it, I'm going solo?
Right. That's a big part of State of Decay, isn't it? Like that whole idea of community and trust and how you survive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of surviving, let's talk about the world itself, right? Because Sunny Games also mentioned that it's looking a lot bigger and more dynamic.
Oh, right. Yeah, with those weather effects they teased,
Yeah.
like snow, rain, fog.
Yeah, imagine trying to scavenge for supplies in a blizzard. Visibility 0, zombies are lurking in the snowdrift.
Oh, yeah, that would definitely add a whole new layer of tension, wouldn't it?
Oh, for sure. Suddenly you're not just worried about zombies, you got to think about the temperature. Can you even see where you're going?
Yeah.
The terrain could become super treacherous.
That's a good point.
It really changes the game.
But, before we get too caught up in the apocalypse weather forecast, I gotta say, something that's really been bugging me is that, we haven't seen any actual gameplay footage.
Yeah, I get that. It's like they're teasing us with this incredible world, but they're holding back on showing us how it actually plays, right?
Right.
It's definitely a way to build anticipation, keep the mystery alive. But you know what? They have confirmed that those trailers, they are representative of what the game's actually going to look and feel like.
Okay, that's reassuring.
Right.
Yeah.
And with the coalition involved, the Gears of War devs, and Unreal Engine 5 powering it all, expectations are pretty high.
Yeah, for sure.
This could be amazing.
Oh, hey, speaking of amazing, I have a joke for you.
All right, hit me with it.
Okay, why do graveyards have fences?
I don't know why.
Because people are dying to get in.
Oh, classic.
I know, right?
That's a good one.
Gotta remember that one.
Hey, by the way, how are you liking the State of Decay 2 gameplay we've been showing in the video version of this deep dive? Hopefully you're enjoying our struggles and triumphs there.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We even had a listener write in and say, hey, your voices sound like dumb AI.
Oh, no.
But you know what? At least we're entertaining.
Yeah. And to the listener who said, hey, great podcast, keep up the good work, we appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. But getting back to State of Decay 3, there's been some buzz about the multiplayer getting a serious upgrade.
Oh yeah, Sunny Games found some interesting details about that, suggesting they might be using some tech from Obsidian's Grounded.
Grounded, that's the survival game, right? With like the kids shrunk down.
That's the one. And, they did some really innovative things with their multiplayer.
Right, yeah. What kind of impact do you think that could have on State of Decay 3? Well, imagine this, right? Your friends could actually contribute to your community even when you're not playing.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
you could log in and find that your base has been fortified, you've got stockpiles of resources, all thanks to your friends' efforts.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's like the world is alive and evolving even when you're not there.
Oh, I like that.
Right. It's less about jumping in for a quick session and more about building a shared legacy, a real survivor community that thrives on collaboration.
That's a really interesting idea. So it's almost like instead of, just hopping in for like a, co-op session, you're actually, building something together.
Exactly, yeah. And with those tethering restrictions removed, players can explore on their own, tackle missions from different angles, maybe even set up separate outposts across the map. It really opens up the strategic possibilities.
Do you think you'd stick close to your group or venture out on your own?
Oh, I'd be the cautious one, sticking with the group for safety, but I get the appeal of going solo, being a lone wolf, carving out your own little corner of the apocalypse. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'd probably be more the cautious type too. But yeah, it's tempting, to try and go it alone.
Totally. It's that classic State of Decay dilemma, right? Balancing your need for connection with that drive to survive.
For sure. But hey, speaking of choices in survival, there was that memorial wall we saw in the trailer. What do you think that was all about? Sunny Games seemed to think it meant character death was going to be a lot more impactful in this game.
Yeah, they might be leaning into the emotional side of things, which makes sense. Each character you recruit, it's a story, skills, a relationship you've built.
Right, yeah.
Losing someone you fought alongside, it's got to leave a mark.
Yeah, especially if you've, really relied on them.
Absolutely. The devs have talked about wanting to make community management more meaningful, and that includes dealing with loss, how you react to those losses, how you honor the fallen. It all becomes part of your community story.
Yeah, it's like it adds another layer of depth to the whole thing.
Right, and then you've got these tough decisions, like do you risk sending someone on a dangerous mission for resources, knowing they might not come back?
Yeah, those are hard calls.
Yeah.
And speaking of tough calls, let's talk about this potential release date. ANML Zero was talking about a possible delay to 2026. Yeah, I saw that. Citing Jez Corden's comments on that Xbox 2 podcast, right?
Right, and they're thinking it might be a strategic move by Microsoft, maybe to avoid clashing with other big releases like Fable.
Oh, okay. So kind of like, making sure each game gets its time in the spotlight.
Exactly. Microsoft's got a pretty carefully planned release schedule.
Right.
But 3D Game Man actually sees the delay as a good thing. More time to polish, refine.
Oh, yeah. A delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad or something like that.
Right, exactly. But AML Zero also brought up a good point. State of Decay 3 has been in development for a while now, and there were those reports from Kotaku about some internal issues.
Right.
So it is a complex game, very ambitious. Could this delay actually be a sign of trouble?
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure. I mean, we've seen games delayed for all sorts of reasons.
Definitely. Sometimes it works out great, sometimes not so much.
What's your gut feeling on this one?
I'm trying to stay optimistic. I mean, Undead Labs has a good track record with the series. They've got a talented team.
Yeah.
But game development can be so unpredictable. Guess we'll just have to wait and see. But hey, let's move on to something a little more fun. Remember when Sunny Games brought up the whole wildlife and hunting thing?
Oh, yeah, like with that zombified deer in the first trailer.
Exactly. It was
Yeah.
such a striking image. It got everyone speculating.
I'm not just talking about zombie deer, though. I'm talking about, imagine hunting zombified bears, wolves, cougars, the whole works.
Oh, yeah.
It would add a whole new level of, danger and strategy to the game.
Oh, absolutely. It wouldn't just be about scavenging in towns anymore. You'd have to venture out into the wilderness.
Right, where the predators are just as dangerous as the prey.
Exactly. And, Sunny Games pointed out that Undead Labs has been hiring devs with experience in wildlife design. Could be a hint, right?
I hope so.
Yeah.
It would be so cool to have that element in the game. Imagine, having to decide. Do you stick to the familiar dangers of the town, or do you brave the wilds?
Right. Where the line between hunter and hunted gets really blurry.
Exactly.
It just adds another layer of complexity to the whole survival experience.
Speaking of complexity, Top Play actually seems pretty optimistic about the overall direction of the game. They call it the most ambitious entry in the series yet.
And I think they might be right. Everything we've seen so far suggests they're really pushing the boundaries of what State of Decay can be.
Yeah.
The bigger world, the dynamic environments, the deeper combat, the potential for really meaningful multiplayer, it all adds up to something pretty special.
And the graphics. Unreal Engine 5, I mean, that's got to look incredible.
Oh yeah, for sure. 3 Game Man did remind us, though, that the game was first revealed 4 years ago, and it's been pretty quiet since then.
Yeah, that's true. We've seen glimpses of potential, but the full picture is still a mystery.
Definitely. And that just makes it even more exciting.
Oh, for sure.
Right,
But
babe?
hey, let's take a quick break from the zombie apocalypse for a second and check in with our listeners.
Sounds good to me. They're the heart of this deep dive, after all.
Absolutely. We got a really nice message from a listener who said, "Hey, great podcast. Keep up the good work. Thanks. Be appreciative.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thanks for the kind words."
Yeah.
And we do appreciate all of you listening and watching.
Speaking of watching, we hope you're enjoying the State of Decay 2 gameplay we've been showing in the video version of this deep dive. Revisiting Trumbull Valley has been a blast, and it's been fun sharing our adventures with you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And before we wrap things up, I've got one more joke for you. Why do graveyards have fences?
Oh, let me guess. Because people are dying to get in.
Got it.
You're on a roll today.
Huh?
I try.
Well, it seems like we're all dying to get our hands on State of Decay 3.
Oh yeah, the hype is definitely real.
And it makes you think about how all these potential features, they all come together to create this immersive and honestly kind of terrifying zombie survival experience.
Yeah, totally. We've talked about the evolution of the zombies, that expanded world with dynamic weather, even the possibility of hunting zombified wildlife, and then that potential for this really groundbreaking multiplayer. I mean, what do you think is like the biggest change from the previous State of Decay games?
I think for me, it's that shift towards a more strategic and thoughtful kind of approach to survival.
Oh, okay.
It's not just about, mowing down hordes anymore. It's about choosing your battles, conserving those precious resources, and adapting to this ever-changing environment. And that potential for a truly persistent multiplayer experience, where your friends can shape your world even when you're offline. That's huge. Yeah, totally. It makes you think more about the long game, right? Like building a community that can not only survive, but like actually thrive in this, this harsh world.
Exactly. It becomes less about your own survival and more about creating something that lasts, a legacy that goes beyond your own playthrough.
I like that. So, knowing what we know now, how would you prepare for the world of State of Decay 3?
That's a good question. Well, I'd definitely start by brushing up on my scavenging skills.
Oh, yeah.
Every resource is precious in the apocalypse, right? And I'd focus on building a diverse community because in State of Decay, teamwork is key. But most importantly, I'd try to stay adaptable because the world of State of Decay 3, it's dynamic, unpredictable. You got to think on your feet, adjust your strategies on the fly.
Yeah, that's great advice. Start practicing those zombie dodging skills now, folks. And, don't forget that resource management.
Yeah, those are going to come in handy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And remember, community is everything. Find your fellow survivors, build trust, work together. We're stronger together, especially when facing the apocalypse.
Absolutely. Well, that's a wrap on our deep dive into State of Decay 3. Huge thanks to Sunny Games, ANML Zero, 3D Game Man, and Top to Play for giving us so much to talk about.
Yes, thank you to all of our sources, and to all of you listening, thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of the zombie apocalypse.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating topics.
Yeah.
Until next time, stay safe, stay prepared, and keep those brains off the menu.
So, Grounded, it's that survival game with like the kids shrink down in the backyard.
Yeah, right.
And, Obsidian, they really did some cool stuff with the multiplayer in that game.
Yeah.
And Sunny Games was thinking they might be incorporating some of that tech into State of Decay 3.
Oh, okay. So, what kind of impact could that have, on this game?
Well, just imagine, you log in one day, and your base has been totally fortified. You've got all these stockpiles of resources, and it's all thanks to, your friends, even when you weren't even playing.
Oh, wow. That's really cool, actually.
Yeah, it creates this sense of a living world, one that evolves even when you're not around.
Oh, I like that. It's less about just jumping in for a quick session and more about building something together, something more lasting.
Exactly. You're creating a shared legacy, a real survivor community.
Right.
And get this right, no more tethering restrictions. So players can explore independently, take on missions from different angles, maybe even set up separate outposts across the map.
That's interesting. So you could have like different groups like specializing in different things.
Yeah, totally. It adds this whole other level of strategy to the co-op experience. Would you stick close to your group, or would you like venture out on your own?
Oh man, I'd probably be the one clinging to the group, you know. Safety in numbers and all that.
Yeah, I get that. But I can see the appeal of going solo, you know? Being a lone wolf, carving out your own corner of the apocalypse.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. It's tempting.
It's that classic State of Decay struggle, isn't it? That push and pull between wanting to connect with others and that drive to survive no matter what.
Right. Yeah.
But, those choices, they get even heavier when you think about that memorial wall we saw in the trailer. Sunny Games pointed that out. And, it seems like character death might be a lot more impactful in State of Decay 3.
Yeah, definitely. Like more emotional.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? Each character you recruit, they have a story, skills, a relationship you've built with them.
Yeah, you get attached to them.
Exactly. So, losing someone you've fought alongside, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah, especially if you've, come to rely on them, like really rely on them.
Right, and the developers have even said they want to make community management more meaningful, and that includes dealing with loss.
Right.
So how you react to those losses, how you honor the fallen, it all becomes part of your community's story.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to think about it. Like it adds another layer of depth to the whole experience.
Right, and then you've got these tough decisions like, do you risk sending someone on a dangerous mission knowing they might not make it back?
Yeah, those are hard calls.
Hard calls indeed. But hey, let's shift gears for a second and talk about something that's got everyone buzzing, that potential release date.
Oh yeah.
ANML Zero was talking about a possible delay to 2026. They were setting Jez Corden from that Xbox 2 podcast.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
And ANML Zero thinks it might be strategic on Microsoft's part.
Okay.
Maybe to avoid competition with other big titles like Fable.
So like make sure each game gets its moment in the sun, so to speak.
Exactly. Microsoft, they plan these releases pretty carefully.
Yeah.
But 3D Game Man had a different take. They actually think the delay could be a good thing, more time to polish, refine.
Yeah, there's that saying, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad.
Exactly. But ANML Zero also brought up a good point. State of Decay 3 has been in development for a while now.
Yeah.
And there were those reports from Kotaku about, some internal issues.
Right.
It's a complex game, very ambitious.
Yeah, for sure.
So could the delay actually be like a sign of trouble?
Yeah, it's hard to say, right?
It is. We've seen games delayed for all sorts of reasons.
Right.
Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes not so much. What's your gut feeling on this one?
I don't know. I mean, I want to be optimistic,
Yeah.
Like at Undead Labs, they have a good track record with this series. And I know they've got a talented team working on it.
Yeah.
But game development, it's so unpredictable,
Yeah, it really is. I guess we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out.
Yeah, for sure. But, speaking of things we don't know for sure,
Yeah.
I really hope they include that whole wildlife and hunting thing that Sunny Games was talking about.
Oh, yeah, with, like, the zombified deer from the trailer?
Yeah. But I'm thinking, like, even beyond that, imagine hunting zombified bears, wolves, cougars.
Oh, wow.
It would be so cool, right?
That would definitely up the ante, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it wouldn't just be scavenging in towns anymore. You'd have to, like, venture out into the wilderness.
Right, into the unknown.
Where the predators are just as dangerous as the prey.
Exactly. It just adds another layer of, like, complexity to the whole survival experience. And you know what? Sunny Games mentioned that Undead Labs has been hiring devs with experience in wildlife design.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that could be a hint, right?
I hope so. I really do. It would be so awesome to have that element in the game. Like, imagine having to choose between, sticking to those familiar dangers in town or braving the wilds where anything could happen.
Right, where the line between, like, who's the hunter and who's being hunted gets really blurry.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
It's all about those tough choices.
For sure, yeah. And speaking of, the overall direction of the game, Cops All Play seems pretty optimistic about it. They called it, the most ambitious entry in the series yet.
Yeah, and you know what? I think they might be right.
Yeah.
Everything we've seen so far suggests they're really pushing the boundaries, The bigger world, the dynamic environments, that deeper combat, the potential for this really meaningful multiplayer, it all points to something special.
Yeah. for sure.
Could be huge.
And the graphics too, right? Unreal Engine 5. I mean, it's got to look amazing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But 3D Game Man did remind us that the game was first revealed like 4 years ago and it's been pretty quiet since then.
Right.
So we've seen glimpses of potential, but the full picture is still a mystery.
Yeah, true. There's still so much we don't know.
Exactly, and that's part of what makes it so exciting, right? It really does, yeah. It makes you think, like, how do all these pieces fit together? You know, how do they create this truly immersive and honestly kind of terrifying zombie survival experience?
Right. Yeah. We talked about those evolved zombies, that bigger world with, dynamic weather, even that possibility of hunting zombified wildlife.
Yeah.
And then, the potential for this really groundbreaking multiplayer experience. What do you think, what stands out to you as the most, significant change from the previous State of Decay games?
I think for me, it's that shift towards a more strategic and thoughtful approach to survival,
Yeah.
It's not just about, mindlessly blasting through hordes anymore. It's about picking your battles, conserving those precious resources and adapting to this environment that's constantly changing. And then that potential for a truly persistent multiplayer experience, right? Where your friends can actually shape your world even when you're not playing. I think that's huge.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It makes you think more about the long game, right? Not just surviving, but building something that can last.
Exactly. It's about building a community that can not only survive, but actually thrive in this, this harsh new world.
Right, yeah. So, knowing what we know now, how would you prepare for the world of State of Decay 3?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I definitely start by honing those scavenging skills.
Yeah.
Every resource counts in a world overrun by zombies, right?
Right.
And I focus on building a strong and diverse community.
Yeah.
In State of Decay, teamwork really makes the dream work.
Yeah.
But most importantly, I try to stay adaptable. The world of State of Decay 3, it's dynamic, it's unpredictable, you gotta be able to think on your feet, adjust your strategies as you go.
That's great advice. Start practicing those zombie dodging skills now, folks.
Yeah.
And don't forget about resource management.
Yeah, that's gonna be crucial.
Absolutely.
And hey, remember, community is key. Find those fellow survivors, build trust, work together, because we're stronger together, especially when we're facing the apocalypse.
Absolutely. Well, that's a wrap on our deep dive into State of Decay 3. Huge thanks to Sunny Games, AML Zero, 3D Game Man, and Top Play for giving us so much to talk about.
Yeah, thanks to all of our amazing sources.
And to all of you listening, thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the heart of the zombie apocalypse.
We appreciate you all.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating topics. Until next time, stay safe, stay prepared, and keep those brains off the menu.